Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Life, Law, Bin. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is fantastic to see you guys again. Thank you for always tuning in. I'm really excited about today's episode. I am introducing you to one of our amazing IFBM volunteer coordinators for 2024 2025. His name is Taurai Kativu. Lovely to have you on the channel. Taurai, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Nia, and it's a pleasure to be on the channel. Thank you.
Great. The pleasure is certainly mine. I'm sure that any viewers who are uh, quite quite loyal in their viewing would know that I usually ask for a fun fact. So I'm going to ask you for a fun fact about yourself, and then I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself briefly to the channel.
All right. I think the fun fact about myself that comes to mind is that I was the best history student, that is for my O levels and my A levels. And for my A levels, I was the only student in my class who had an A for history, and I was joint top student with one of the girls who was in my class, but then she had an A in literature, which I did not. I had a B, but I had an A in history. So yeah, that's the one thing that comes to mind. It's quite difficult to think of a fun fact, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's me.
that is pretty incredible indeed, and we'll take that certainly as your fun fact. Now tell us who you are. Of course, I know who you are, but I want our lovely viewers to know who you are as well. So introduce yourself to us, please.
All right, thank you. So, in terms of who I am, my name is Taurai Kativu. It's Shona. It means speak or say something. That is my name. My surname, I have no idea what it means. I have not yet done the necessary investigations, but I am from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, you will find it in Southern Africa. And I studied at Rhodes University in South Africa, and then I practiced in Zimbabwe as a civil and commercial litigation lawyer for about 7 years before coming to the UK. And I have been in the UK for close to 20 months now, and I am still getting used to the weather with no plans of getting used to the weather. Yeah, and I work for a local authority as a legal advisor. I think that's just a brief background of both my educational and professional experience. In terms of who I am a husband. I am a father. I have a lovely wife, and I also have two amazing 6-year-old boys. Yeah, I think that's a brief summation of who I am.
Thank you for that great introduction. I'm going to jump straight into it. Why did you apply to become IFBM's volunteer coordinator?
Um, Two reasons. I applied so that I can get a front row seat to the mentoring scheme, because the role comes with a lot of benefits. And then, secondly, I was also looking for an opportunity to demonstrate my commitment towards the Bar of England and Wales. And I think being a volunteer coordinator for IFBM, which is an organization which represents the needs of the international community. Basically, I think it is a good way of helping the international community and also demonstrating my commitment to the Bar of England and Wales.
So I heard you mention the benefits. I think it would be beneficial if you state what you think the benefits are of being one of IFBM's volunteer coordinators.
Okay, I think the biggest benefit for being one of IFBM's volunteer coordinator is that because we are also responsible for information dissemination, we get to spend a lot of time looking for information which might be beneficial towards the international community and anyone who's aspiring to becoming a barrister. So you get access to a lot of information because you have to do a lot of research, verify the information, and share it with the community at large. So I think the biggest benefit for being a volunteer coordinator is the access that one gets to the information, because unlike when you are not involved in the day-to-day running of the organization, it is easier to put a hold on information finding and focus on other things. But then because we have to constantly give people the updates, we are constantly looking for the latest information that is available on the market. That's number one. And then number two, it also, I mentioned that I get a front row seat to the mentoring scheme. I think the IFBM mentoring scheme is probably one of the best, or if not the best, and the only scheme that is available for the international community. And my experience since I became a volunteer coordinator, or the amount of resources that I've gathered since becoming a volunteer coordinator is a lot more than I ever had since I started pursuing this journey of wanting to become a barrister on the Bar of England and Wales. So I think certainly the front row seat to the scheme is definitely one of the biggest positives. And then also, I also mentioned that you get to demonstrate your commitment towards the Bar of England and Wales, which I think it will be easier when I get to sit for the pupillage interviews, when I then get to explain to them what IFBM is, my involvement with IFBM, it will be easier to demonstrate my commitment towards the Bar of England. And then also, there are a lot of skills that one gets to learn as a volunteer coordinator. You learn the administrative skills. You learn to interact with a diverse community. You learn a lot of like cultural sensitivities because I come from a different background, and we are here to cater for a multi-diverse community. So there is a lot of things that one gets to learn just by being a volunteer coordinator, and we can spend the whole evening going through the long list of benefits that one gets.
Well, they'd probably say I'm biased because I'm the founder, but I do think it's incredibly beneficial and instrumental. And it's always such a privilege to watch the coordinators and even my previous mentors' growth. Because this is now, you guys are now part of cohort three. So I got the benefit of seeing three cohorts of mentees, sorry, your growth. And it's always tremendous to compare how you were initially to where you are 12 months later. And it is always fantastic, because even if it's a situation, if you don't secure pupillage over that specific year that you're doing the mentorship with me specifically, I always get some kind of call back later on in the future to say, you know what, that was an incredibly rewarding foundational year, and guess what, I've gone on to achieve pupillage. And aside from pupillage, everybody that I have mentored, it's been such an honor to continue to see your progress and growth over the year. I definitely think it's all about you guys, and you guys do show me that it's worth carrying on.
I completely agree.
We're going to turn now slightly on a different note to your legal journey. So I note that you have a first degree in social sciences. Why did you decide to pursue law?
You know, okay, so I explained that I'm from Zimbabwe. Um, so I did my A levels in 2006 and 2007, a long time ago. And access to information then was not as it is now. So I come from a background where I was told that you only have three options. You you have to be a lawyer, an accountant, or a doctor. Now, from my O levels to A levels, my choice of subjects was along the sort of the arts subjects, which would make me qualify for a law career from the environment where I came from. And so that sort of I do work hard, but then I think it sort of forced me to work even harder because with the university that I first attended, it's the University of Zimbabwe, and the cut-off points for you to be able to get into law school was 14 points, and the highest points achievable was 15 points. And it was only one school then in the country which was offering law school. So I had to make sure that I had to make the cut. So I worked really hard. I then got into University of Zimbabwe. I did one semester, but then the school closed indefinitely just before, I think it was 2 weeks before our first semester exams. And then I then got an opportunity to go and study law at Rhodes University. Now, at Rhodes University, how it works is that you do not get into law straight away. You have to have done at least either another degree, or you must have done at least 1 year of humanities or sciences courses for social science subjects. So that is how I then ended up having to do a Bachelor of Social Science first, because it was a prerequisite for me to be able to then transition to go and do the law degree. So it's quite a
That's
journey.
no, but that's interesting. Sometimes I find that having knowledge, especially in another area or discipline, can actually can prove to be quite beneficial in coming to the law. So you don't come to the law seeing the law in a vacuum. You see how it works within wider society. So that's why I actually thought it was a befitting first degree, the a degree in the social sciences. Because look, we literally deal with people every day. um, law is a discipline within society. So to me, you have to have some kind of understanding of the social sciences in order to prosper here. Now, I must ask you, on that point, what impact does having a first degree in social sciences have in terms of your choice in pursuing a career at the bar?
Um, I think, well, my experience, having a social science degree, has sort of given me a different way of approaching problems, like the legal problems that I've had to deal with in the past. I have not dealt with them from a straight-jacket legalistic point of view, but then my priority has always been to find a practical solution which falls within the four corners of the law. Because when I did my social science degree, I did subjects like management, I did economics, I did sociology, I did history. I did pick up quite a lot. But then the subjects that the core subjects in my social science degree, it was industrial and organizational psychology, which is more on the human resources side of psychology. Basically, how to underpay employees and get the best out of them. But it then just gives you that ability to look at problems holistically, not just from the fact from the point of view that I have the law on my side, I have the facts on my side. That does not necessarily translate to justice. You need to have everything. You need the law, you need the facts, you also need the result to be justice. But then I think that experience, it then gives me the ability to seek justice, to look at the bigger picture, which is to achieve justice at the end of the day. And then I then work backwards. And I think in terms of how I perceive that to be of assistance in my journey towards the Baufinger of Wells is that I think it puts me in a good stead in the sense that I do not like I see the human being behind the problem or that requires a solution. I just do not see the problem and the billable hours, which is what law sort of taught us. Because like what I said is that I first enrolled at the university in Zimbabwe, and I still remember vividly that in one of our very first week of lectures, we were told that the god of lawyers is money. Um, and I saw that during my practice years, especially when I dealt with people from certain institutions, you could see that the motive behind is money. But then if you then dealt with people who've had certain exposures, you could then see that we are different sides of the same coin. We both seek to achieve justice. We are not enemies. So I think that experience it makes me a holistic um, kind of lawyer, which I think puts me in a good steady in my journey towards the bar.
Indeed, it does. And a keen listener will realize that you're actually using examples from your past. And this is actually a great, great point to ask you a bit about that. Now, you've practiced as a civil and commercial litigation lawyer in Zimbabwe for 7 years. Why? Why have you decided to relocate and pursue a career at the Bar of England and Wales?
Well, the decision to relocate, I think we have had our fair share of ups and downs in Zimbabwe. And I will sort of limit my response to my practice. So I think before relocating, I have had to rebuild my practice almost three times. You build a practice, and then it starts to sort of make sense that you know what I am now on my own feet. I am able to survive without having to rely on other people. And then the social economic environment, it then does what it knows best. That practice dies and you have to rebuild again. So I have had to rebuild that on three occasions. And that is when I finally made the decision that I need to move so that I can be able to focus on growth and personal development, not on rebuilding. So that was the reason behind the move. And here we are trying to lay a foundation so that I can be able to build something which can grow and develop.
As a transferring lawyer, what challenges, if any, are you facing in that regard as an international aspiring barrister? Because as part of building again, you're coming as a lawyer here, but there's certain things that you have to do in order to practice at the bar here. So what challenges do you think you're facing?
I think as a transferring lawyer, I think the biggest challenge would be financial resources because as a transferring qualified lawyer, you do not go through the normal route of GDL, bar course, so which usually has a lot of funding. Um, I have to go through the bar transfer test route, which, to the best of my knowledge to date, I have not yet seen any scholarship opportunities that are available. And also, I'm coming at a time where I now have a wife and children, so I have responsibilities. You find yourself in a situation where your number one priority is to make sure that gas and electric is paid, there's a roof on top of people's heads, and there's food. And then whilst you are doing that, it's a cost towards your personal development. So it prolongs the journey, the financial commitment. It prolongs the journey. I think that is the biggest challenge. And then I think the second challenge that comes to mind is because you do not have UK experience, it sort of makes people skeptical, so to say, that you are saying that you have 7 years experience. But then your 7 years experience is from a foreign jurisdiction. We do not know what you learned. We do not know what you were doing. And therefore, that may not necessarily count. And I suppose the way of getting around that issue is being able to thoroughly explain your experience whenever you get interview opportunities. And I think in my current role, I explained to the interviewing panel that I obtained my qualification from a common law jurisdiction, and then I also practiced in a common law jurisdiction. And whenever I thought that I was using terminology which was potentially unique to Zimbabwe, I would then explain what I meant whenever I used technical jargon, so that I then make it sort of crystal clear that this is the kind of experience that I have. And, luckily, like my current role, I went for an interview for a legal assistant role, and I got an email the next day being told that I was overqualified for the role, and I was being recommended for a much bigger role, which is the role that I'm currently occupying. So I think those two issues. The first one being the financial resources, and then the second one being to do with explaining your experience. I think those were sort of the biggest one, and luckily I was able to deal with the experience bit. Working on the finances, and the future looks bright.
Yeah, I've realized that finances always seem to be a recurring challenge, and you are right. I don't think I know of any kind of scholarships available or bursaries available in terms of the transferring lawyers, and that's something that we'd have to look into. Or one of our viewers, if they do know, I'm sure they'll shout out. But that is a challenge indeed, especially keeping everyone keeping everyone's tummies filled and in warmth and in shelter. So I understand, but it will come. Even if it's slow and steady, slow and steady wins the race every time. I'm going
Yeah.
to you've mentioned a bit about your legal advisor role, which you're currently undertaking. Now, your job includes representing the local authority at the magistrates court on school attendance cases. That's really interesting. Can you briefly explain what that current role involves or entails and how this will assist you in securing pupillage? Because you've briefly spoken about experience outside of the UK, and obviously this is experience, really, really good experience in the UK in terms of oral advocacy and also possibly some written advocacy. So I look forward to your response with that one.
Okay, thank you. So, what I do in terms of education prosecutions is that as the local authority, it is our responsibility to ensure that parents maintain a regular attendance, ensure that their children maintain regular attendance. So when they fall below certain threshold, we start with issuing fines. If they do not result in a change in behavior, then we proceed with prosecutions. Now, those prosecutions, these are conducted in the magistrates court, in the non-CPS courts, and there are opportunities for both written and oral advocacy, in the sense that we are responsible for putting together the bundle of documents that we use in the prosecution process. And then we are also responsible for conducting the actual advocacy in the non-CPS courts. and it provides us with an opportunity to conduct trials as well. So I think in terms of um, the future, that is the journey towards the bar, is that what this does is it puts me in a good steady in the sense that I get to practice um, both oral and written advocacy in the UK, in the UK setup. And also, I have also seen an increase in confidence, just my level of confidence from when I started conducting advocacy in the magistrates court, and now there has been like a very kind of significant shift. I suppose just to digress, I think the lack of confidence, when you have an accent and you are the only person that looks like yourself that you've seen within that setup for 6 or 8 months. You're coming, you've been doing it for 6 months, you've never seen anyone that looks like you or that speaks like you. It sort of puts you in a situation where you do a lot of self-introspection and all the sorts. But I have grown as an individual. The way I now conduct myself, be it liaising with court staff, I've built rapport with court staff. I'm now more confident. And I think what this does is that, when I get an opportunity to appear before a pupillage interview panel, I will be able to confidently say that I have conducted advocacy, both oral and written, in the magistrates court confidently, because my levels of confidence have increased, and also I can then also draw my transferable skills from the both the oral and written advocacy that I've conducted back home in Zimbabwe. And I should be able to then say that, given the opportunity, I feel confident that if you put me before any court, given the required training, the level of support that is needed, I should be able to discharge my obligations. So yeah, it's the biggest takeaway from my current role is that it has given me a lot of self-belief. So when I sit before a pupillage interview panel, I will be speaking from self-belief, not what I've written on paper to say I possess.
Yeah, and I think when you say self-belief as well, it means self-belief in practicing as well in this jurisdiction, because I'm sure you were a fantastic lawyer in Zimbabwe, but it's just knowing that you are capable, and I'm sure you knew it, but it's like the affirmation, I can do this job
Yes,
here, this accent, it doesn't define me. Actually, it's so unique. It's beautiful to hear it. I'm glad to be, from this particular background, and I'm glad that I can use my same accent and still be an effective advocate, still be persuasive. So it's that kind of self-belief that I think it can definitely leave an imprint and leave an impression and still tell you, hey, I can do this job. I can do this job, even though I sound different. But I always say your background is your superpower.
indeed.
So we're going to turn now to the last segment of our discussion or this episode, and that has to do with challenges as an international applicant. Now, anyone who follows my platforms, uh, especially my social media platforms, will know that I always discuss the challenges and ways that we can overcome the challenges as international applicants. So, as an international aspiring barrister, could you name two of the most significant challenges that you've encountered in your pursuit of a career at the bar?
Thank you. I think the two biggest challenges that I've encountered, I think the first one is financial resources, and then the second one is it was right on my lips, and then it just escaped me. But then I'll get back to it after discussing financial resources. Um, the pathway that I'm taking, I have to do the bar transfer test because I am moving onto the English bar as a transferring qualified foreign lawyer. So that means that I have to self-finance all the expenses because there are no bursaries or financial resources that are available for people in my circumstances, like bar course scholarships, for example. Those are resources that are available for people who are taking the conventional route. Now, on top of having to meet the financial obligations on my own, I also have family responsibilities as well. I think one of the issues that is not necessarily unique to international aspiring applicants, but then I think if you are more like, can I say, in your mid 30s, early 40s as an aspiring barrister, you may have family responsibilities, like in my circumstances. So having to create that balance, having to self-finance my aspirations, and also having to take care of my responsibilities, that comes as a big challenge. And then, yes, so the second issue that comes to mind, it just came back, um, is to do with experience. Now, the route that I'm taking, I did not come here to study, but then I came here as a dependent to my wife, who is on a work visa. So that means that I do not get the benefit of having um, English exposure or experience in the law before looking for a job in the English legal system. So now that presents a challenge in the sense that anyone who's hiring would ideally be looking for English references, even though I may possess the necessary experience. But then, because my references are not English, they are looked with a skeptical eye, so to say. But then I've been able to overcome the second challenge through my employment because I think this is my 11th month working as a legal advisor for for a local authority. So I have gained quite substantial experience, which goes onto my CV, which can then sort of put confidence to anyone who looks at my application that even though I have not studied or obtained any sort of academic qualification in the UK, I possess the necessary skills and knowledge. So, yes, those are the challenges that comes to mind.
I'm grateful, and I know that you started to explain how you are overcoming the challenges as well. Is there any way that you have, is there any plan or method that you've put into place as it pertains to the finances, or is it just kind of saving as you go along? Is that kind of the plan?
Well, if saving was a possibility, I would have gone along with the savings plan. But then, because of the cost of relocation, I have had to wind up sort of my life back home in Zimbabwe and then restart my life here in the UK. So to be honest with you, I have not yet accumulated any savings. I've just been dealing with the costs of relocating. But then I am slowly getting into a position where I can comfortably say I am reaching an equilibrium, so to say. I'm turning towards a positive page in my finances, and in terms of my projections, because I think mid, I think yes, mid next year, I will be like 3 years old in the UK. So what that does is it opens access to affordable financing. So in terms of, I think in terms of my financing strategy, I'm looking at having to look for access to finance through lending institutions like banks, which give reasonably priced interest rates. And as I said again, that I'm turning a positive page in my finances. Um, I think from the beginning of 2025, I should be able to start to put something aside towards meeting those finances. But then I think, I don't know with you, but then I find that if one has a project, if one aspires to do something, saving £10,000 to do that is harder than paying a loan of 10,000 that one has borrowed in order to achieve one's aspirations. Um, so I think uh, measures, I do have measures in place and that I think will sort of comfortably enable me to meet the finances.
I'm glad though that we paused there to speak a bit about savings because savings is the first thing that jumped into my mind and that's why I was asking you about it. But to be able to save is a privilege. It means that you are able to meet all of your other expenses first and then you can afford to save. And oftentimes sometimes that may be the case a month, but then you're right, the cost of relocation is can be so high sometimes that although you might have managed to save 20 to 50 pounds in a given month, you've had to take that back out of the piggy bank, essentially, to spend it on something that you absolutely need, that's essential. So when we speak about saving, it's true. It is quite a privileged position to have the ability to save it and to leave it because you can only save something if, as I said, you're meeting all of your expenditure. There's no point in having that savings account there and the light is off or your fridge is completely empty. You've got to use it to survive. So I'm grateful for that explanation. And those who are listening and viewing would also realize that it's quite financially burdensome to move from one country to another. So it's very it could be very expensive, and in some people's cases it could be debilitating, especially for a period, and you still need some people need some support there, but then it becomes even more tricky if you're in a position like yourself and you are, you are the provider, or you're the person that most people turn to for the support and that kind of thing. So that's actually a really good challenge to flag. Now, as an international aspiring barrister, could you name two or one of your proudest moments in pursuing the bar so far?
I think three occasions come to mind. I think the first occasion was finding support or resources like IFBM and the Sikh Lawyers Association, because I think those are the two resources that enabled me to get access to information. And it also enabled me to make a transition from the work that I was doing, which is care work, to getting into legal services, which takes me to my second moment, which was getting my current job, which is as the position of legal advisor for a local authority, because this position allows me to make what I can call a seamless transition from a foreign jurisdiction into the English legal system. And then it also provides me with the necessary experience, the necessary references as well, as someone who's aspiring to become a barrister at the Bar of England and Wales. And then I think the third one was getting an opportunity to serve as a volunteer coordinator for IFBM, because it comes with a lot of benefits. It gives me, I think the biggest benefit for me is that it gives me access to you as my mentor, because I think I've found mentoring to be probably the most valuable resource that one can get if one wants to break in whatever sector or industry that they aspire to get into, especially if you are from a minority ethnic group. You need that kind of support. So I think those are the three issues. I know you asked for one or two, but I've got three, and they're sort of in a timeline. One builds into the other.
No, that's wonderful. And it's good that you are giving thanks and celebrating three, counting all of these kind of opportunities. I always say it's good to celebrate what people may perceive as the small victories, because small steps or small victories lead you to what other people perceive as, or society perceives as these big victories. But without those small steps, you wouldn't get there. So that's wonderful. But there's one thing there that really piqued my interest. And you said you did some care work before you began performing some legal services. How would you find, or how do you think the care work is going to help you, or what skills did you get from doing that work when you transfer over to the bar? What do you think you'll use there? What transferable skill set do you think you have?
I think fair work for for someone who comes from a professional background, it teaches humility, because I was coming from a high flying corner office to doing care work. Not that trying to downplay the importance of care work, but then I think I was at a stage in my career where a lot of people aspired to be what I was. And I gave all that up to relocate to the UK. And I had to start somewhere. And care work is where I started. So it really taught me a lot of humility. And then it builds a lot of resilience because I think it is a mentally challenging job for everyone. And I think if you are coming from a different industry again, that can be 10 times more challenging. And then I think the biggest takeaway for me was communication, because I supported adults with learning disabilities. They were autistic, and two of the three adults that I supported were non-verbal. Um, so you really had to communicate in an effective manner, so as to make sure that the communication is received, and then you solicit for the appropriate response, or you are then able to prompt someone to do what is needed to be done. I remember I supported one of the guys that I was supporting to go for a hospital visit. He was having his wisdom taken out, and the nurse, the learning disabilities nurse who was supporting us, was asking me how long I had been supporting the guy. And I told him that I've only been doing this for less than 6 months. And she was shocked because of how we were able to communicate, because I think this was it was a very difficult time for the person that I was supporting. But then I made sure that I explained everything to him, what was happening, how it was going to happen, and the benefits. And yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me was communication. And I think that because as a barrister, your job is to advocate, being able to effectively communicate is one of the most essential skills that one must possess. And especially considering now that the focus is now toward plain and simple um, communication. Because if you are supporting someone who has challenges, you have to make it um, very simple. So I think that skill, um, even though I'd heard it from a textbook theory point of view in law school, I was able to put it in practice over a course of 12 months.
That is superb. And I'm glad that you were able to identify the skill set that you will use or that you gained or honed there. Because I don't think well, I think you know this, but there's kind of a common kind of underlying subtle theme in both professions, the carer and becoming a barrister. We are of service to others. We're there to serve others, and we're there to um, express their outcomes or what they would desire, their desired outcome effectively, not only to a court, but a big part of our job, you're absolutely right, is being able to effectively communicate with our clients. And that means people from all backgrounds in society and knowing how to communicate effectively with each person, pitch it to the level that they can understand it effectively. So that is wonderful. And I think that that is something that I think I know that is essential experience that you need to take forward, and just simply making sure that the client understands what's happening, and you're right, what are the benefits of this, or what are the options that you have. So that is critical. And you some people would be actually surprised. That is something that I think personally, and from my experience, pupillage panels would be interested in hearing, because there's such a powerful skill set from that alone, that helps you or shapes you to become a barrister, because we have to have different skills in our proverbial suitcase, because we have to be able to deploy them at any moment. All right, so we're wrapping up this episode. It's been insightful indeed and educational as always. But what would you say to those international aspiring barristers who are keen to pursue a career at the bar?
I think what I would say is that as an international aspirant, if if it is your dream to become a barrister, you must pursue it so that you achieve your dreams. But for me, I think representation is more important. If you think that you can do it, you owe it to your community to do it, so that you can represent your community. I am particularly fond of representation because, like, I come from Zimbabwe. There are a lot of Zimbabweans in this country, and there are a lot of people who were lawyers in Zimbabwe who have sort of moved to do other professions. And what that does now is that most of the stories that the young generations hear are those of people who came as lawyers who moved on to do something. But then I believe that having relocated to the UK as a lawyer and being able to do it not as a barrister, I think it will inspire a lot of people. It will show to them that this is a possibility. If I can do it, so can anyone. I think that is really my biggest sort of that is the thing that I would want to say to especially the international community. Why? Because I think people associate their dreams with people who they feel closer to. As a black person, if I see another black person who's achieved a lot, that may motivate me to do the same. But then, as a black person who speaks a particular language, who comes from a particular region, if I see someone whom I have a lot in common with, having achieved those that which what I intend to achieve, it is a very huge source of inspiration for me. So I want to inspire the young generations, and I also want to inspire as well, even my generation, those that have the qualifications somewhere in their suitcases, but they're still thinking, should I or should I not? I just want to be able to show that it is being done by human beings. We can all do it.
Powerful words indeed. It has been done by human beings, it's been done by us. So people looking on, you can do it too. That's great. I had a wonderful time as always. Thank you. Thank you so much for finding the time to come and record with us and share with us a bit of your background. I'm really grateful.
Thank you so much for the time.
No problem. Thank you, folks, and take care of yourself. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye now. See you later.
Bye.